Beneath the scrutinizing gaze of a watchful crowd, an act of kindness unfolds, igniting debate and casting shadows on intentions. Can a heart's true offering shine through the murky lens of public opinion, or will the haunting whispers of doubt snuff it out? The city pulsed with a dissonant rhythm, a cacophony of political slogans clashed with the murmurs of hopeful chatter amidst a backdrop of monumental buildings draped in bright campaign colors. It was a stark landscape where division seeped into the fabric of daily life, turning casual exchanges into interactions laden with judgment. Among the throng of protesters and supporters was Ivanka Trump, her presence a bright thread woven through this heavy tapestry of public discourse. With a warm smile that seemed to defy the chill of dissent surrounding her family name, she moved through the bustling streets, her heart heavy yet hopeful. As she ducked into a narrow alley to escape a crowd of shouting factions, Ivanka's gaze fell upon a figure hunched by the sidewalk. A down-and-out veteran, his weathered face told stories of both courage and despair. Unkempt hair framed his haunted eyes, which scanned the ground as if searching for pieces of a life long lost. Despite his ragged exterior, there was an intensity in his gaze that hinted at deep emotional scars. Ivanka felt an immediate pull. This man's plight seemed to stand in stark contrast to the celebrations and controversies of the day. Driven by compassion, she approached him. "Hi, I'm Ivanka. Can I help you?" The moment hung heavy, charged with both vulnerability and tension. As Ivanka weaved through the bustling streets of Washington, D.C., a mix of political rallies and protests enveloped her in a cacophony of shouts and chants. The pristine brick buildings towered overhead, parading their historical significance, contrasting sharply with the jagged edges of a society deeply divided. Everywhere she turned, signs flaunted stark messages, underscoring a relentless narrative of animosity that seemed to grip the air. Navigating through the throngs, her attention was drawn to a worn-out veteran seated on the sidewalk. His tattered military jacket, a silent testament to battles fought, both abroad and within society itself. His calloused hands rested on the pavement, fists clenched, the only sign of pride in a world that had all but ignored him. Ivanka noticed the dilapidated cup beside him, scant coins rattling in the bottom, as a distant echo of a system that often overlooked such sacrifices. Suddenly, he lifted his gaze, momentarily breaking his silence, and their eyes locked. "What do you want?" he barked, his voice harsh, underlined with the bitterness of his circumstances. Ivanka felt a tremor of reluctance course through her. The veteran's hostility echoed the prejudice she had faced countless times. Steeling her resolve, she stepped closer. "I want to help," she replied softly, recalling her parents' words regarding service and community. But the heavy atmosphere thickened with tension, the potential for connection dimmed by the shadows of preconceived notions on both sides. Ivanka's heart raced as she knelt beside the veteran, taking in the scruffy beard and unkempt clothes that hinted at years of neglect. "I'm Ivanka," she said, a steady breath soothing her nerves. "I saw you here and wanted to see if I could help." The veteran's eyes glinted with skepticism. "Why would you care?" he barked, his voice raw with distrust. "You've got the world at your feet while I'm here scraping by. You don't know what it's like." Ivanka felt a pang of frustration. "I'm not here to judge you or make you feel worse. I want to help, honestly. There's a shelter nearby." "Shelter?" he interrupted, spitting the word like it was poison. "Why don't you take your fancy words and go back to your glittering life? You wouldn't survive a day here." A small crowd began to gather, cell phones raised, capturing the encounter for social media. Ivanka could feel the weight of their gaze, the whispers bubbling beneath the surface, a mix of outrage and mockery. Her family's name dangled like a noose around her neck, tightening with each escalating moment. "You think I'm just some privileged puppet?" she challenged, her voice rising. "You have no idea how it feels to be scrutinized and vilified constantly. I've faced criticism just for trying to make a difference." He narrowed his eyes, the anger in his voice barely masking a hint of pain. "You don't know the first thing about struggle. You're just a face for something bigger, a family that divides people." As she stood to leave, her chest tightened at the thoughts swirling in her mind. Was she truly making a difference, or simply adding fuel to a fire that would never be extinguished? The onlookers exchanged heated opinions, some heartened by her attempt, while others derided it as a shallow act. "Check your privilege," the veteran muttered, and with that, Ivanka's mind raced, a whirlwind of disappointment and determination sparking within her. She knew she had approached this moment with tender intentions, but the world around them was not about to let that shine through. The political monster loomed larger still, and she felt its breath on her neck. As the news of Ivanka's encounter with the veteran spread through social media like wildfire, it ignited fierce debates on platforms across the political spectrum. For every supportive comment praising her compassion, there was an equally powerful counter, accusing her of hypocrisy. "She just wants to use him for PR," remarked one user, their disdain palpable even through the screen. Ivanka felt the sting of these words, and a cold knot formed in her stomach. Was her genuine attempt to help being twisted into a weapon against her? Worn down yet determined, she began to reconsider her approach. The reflection she saw in the glass of her office window now felt fractured. Was her effort truly an act of kindness, or was it simply a distraction from her family's legacy? Meanwhile, the veteran stood beneath the shadows of a nearby monument, wrapped in a thick haze of skepticism. He wrestled with his own demons, the weight of neglect heavy upon him. "Why should I believe you?" he spat, his voice hoarse and laden with bitterness, when Ivanka reached out again. "Your kind doesn't care about us. You just care about looking good." Ivanka's heart raced as she fought for words. "I may come from privilege, but that doesn't mean I can't understand struggle. I want to make things better for people like you," she pleaded. But the veteran merely shook his head, disappointment in his eyes, anger swirling just beneath the surface. The public was watching, and with every glance they exchanged, the tension thickened like fog on a chilly morning. Then came the critical moment during a live interview. Ivanka's voice broke as she passionately defended her actions. "Compassion is not just a luxury for the rich. It is the only way to heal this divide." Her words echoed with raw vulnerability, cutting through the noise. As the camera drew closer, depicting her as vulnerable, it became clear the battle was intensifying, and both would have to confront their inner monsters. Would Ivanka and the veteran find common ground amidst the whirlwind of opinions, or would they ultimately remain at a stalemate, trapped by their own perspectives? Ivanka paced the bustling sidewalk, the chaos around her stripped of color against the vivid reality of a world divided. As she spotted the veteran again, sitting beneath an unyielding gray sky, her heart raced, knowing this encounter could shift everything. "Hey," she began, kneeling beside him, her voice soft yet unwavering. "Can we talk?" He glanced sideways, a mix of skepticism and fatigue etched into his features. "Talk? You mean preach?" His voice carried the weight of years spent feeling abandoned. "You don't understand a damn thing about my life." Ivanka swallowed, her cheeks hot with the sting of truth. "You're right, I don't, but I want to." The veteran clenched his fists. "You're just some privileged woman playing savior. It's all for show." "That's not true," she leaned closer, her eyes searching his. "I've faced my own battles. I know what it's like to be judged before anyone knows your story." The climate thickened, a palpable tension hanging between them. "And what's your story?" he challenged. "You think some sob story will change the way everyone sees you?" "No, it's not about that. It's about seeing each other beyond the labels." Ivanka's voice trembled with urgency. "I'm trying to show empathy in a world that's forgotten how. I want to help, not just you, but to set an example." The veteran's glare softened, an ember of recognition flickering in his eyes. "Empathy. It feels rare these days," he murmured, a realization creeping into his tone. Together they stood against the tide of division, both feeling the shift, the moment transformed. In that instant, they weren't a politician and a struggling man. They were two souls connected by a shared affirmation that kindness is more potent than the political monsters that linger in the shadows. In the months following their encounter, Ivanka and the veteran forged an unexpected alliance that transcended the division pervading their society. Their collaboration ignited a movement focused on veterans' welfare, advocating for mental health support and job opportunities. This partnership transformed Ivanka's public image. Rather than merely a political figure, She became a symbol of compassion, challenging the narrative surrounding her family. For the veteran, what began as distrust blossomed into mutual respect. He shared his story across platforms, encouraging others to look beyond appearances and hostility, advocating for empathy as a remedy for social discord. As both faced the public together, they demonstrated how vulnerability can break down barriers, inspiring individuals from all walks of life to engage with one another. Their journey illustrated a poignant truth. Even in a deeply divided world, a single act of kindness can ripple through society, uniting hearts and minds against the monstrous divide, fostering a legacy of hope and solidarity.